where he was down in the Highlanders. But then I think the interesting thing is whether he would be remembered as a great All Black. Is the controversy of him not coming back to the All Blacks after he went to France, and where the All Blacks management were trying to get him back, trying to give him, lure him back with a lot of enticements, but obviously Carl Heyman didn't take that, and I think that would have been the difference between him becoming a great All Black. But at the same time, how do we gauge and measure a great All Black? Carl Heyman, for what he did in the small time that he did, he will always be a great All Black in that regard. In the eyes of purists, in the eyes of the ones that they want people or players to stay loyal to the jersey, he probably won't be seen as a great All Black.
Yep, no, that's a good point there, Roger. But it's all about how you measure it. So I mean, if you talk about, there's a lot of guys. Like I think of we're going a bit off topic here, so I'll try and bring it back on. I just want to say this one point about like Rupini Daldo, who played for the Blues. He only played 15 games for the Blues,
and you remember every single one, eh? That's how good he was.
Those 15 games. Yeah, they're some of the best flashbacks, and to me, I look at him as great, even on the back of playing 15 games. So longevity, you're right. You're both right. That does have a point, but it all comes back to I've digressed into a different subject. I want to take back to the Crusaders. Rog, what's your impression? Joy's made some valid points on the Crusaders. What are your thoughts on the Crusaders this year? I was just telling him, just mentioning that they're top of the table again in the New Zealand Conference, and it looks like the same old stuff. So what's your thoughts? Oh, Rog, looks like you've gone off again. But yeah, I'll jump in here. I mean, I was just looking at the Crusaders, and they've lost some pretty intense talent from last year to this year. So Owen Franks has gone, Tim Perry, Sam Whitelock, Jordan Tolfour, Matt Todd, Kieran Reid, Ryan Crotty, Israel Dagg, and in my opinion, at the start of the season, at least I thought, well, the Crusaders, who have been so far ahead of everyone, they'll come back now because they've lost too many guns and too much elite players. But I mean, they're still top of the table. So I think that touched on what you mentioned before, like the culture of the Crusaders and the the establishment, the franchise itself. They can pick guys from Auckland who weren't that good when they were here and turn them into, future All Blacks. So there's something to be said about the culture of the Crusaders more than anything. That's what I take out of a lot of about why they're top of the table again. So
absolutely, that's the reason why they've been so successful over the years. They've created a dynasty based on the culture that they have. And it's that culture that produces these All Blacks who come from anywhere in the country. Because of the culture of, that they do everything that winning culture. Everything is winning. Everything is striving towards winning. It's doing things positive, more positive than yesterday. That kind of mentality.
Yep.
Every single player that gets signed to that franchise. And it trickles from the way they're led as, the CEO down. They say that it reflects leadership. You should see the way that franchise in particular is led. They've got such a tight ship. It's going to be hard to take that legacy away from them at this point.
Yep. One thing I wanted to say, well, I didn't really want to say it. I was going to say it for another podcast, but I'll just mention it now. The Crusaders, they're the only franchise in New Zealand. They run a centralized development system. So they're the only franchise in New Zealand which do it. So they have very good relationships with Canterbury NPC and Tasman NPC, and they run both of their development programs. So that's what I want the Blues to do, which is what I didn't want to bring it up. But what they do is because they run both, and they will find spots for players who they think are good but can't make it. So Will Jordan, who you talked about before, is a good example. they thought Will Jordan, when he was 17, he was in the Canterbury development system, which was run by the Crusaders. And when he was 17, he was an outside back coming through. But they already had Josh McCoy, they had George Bridge, they had just signed Braden Eno from the Blues, and they had a couple of other guys. So they told Will Jordan straight to his face, they said, hey, look, we think you could be a Crusader, but if you stay at Canterbury, your path is blocked. So we want to send you to Tasman. And they sent him there, and then he played a couple of years for MPC, and now he's with the Crusaders. So they basically funnel them into whichever development system has the best chance for them to get into the Crusaders, either in Tasman or in Canterbury. And I would love the Blues to do that. Imagine if the Blues, because like you talked about, Jack Goodhue, and we talked about Braden Eno, midfield backs. Imagine if they said to Jack Goodhue, we've got TJ Faiani, we've got Malachi Fekitoa, we've got these other midfield backs, so we can't find a spot for you in Auckland, but we'll send you to Northland because it's where you're from, and you've played there. And if they said to Braden Eno, we can't fit you in to play the midfield for Auckland, but we'll send you to North Harbour. And then all of the guys, they just fight it out, and whoever's the best gets in the Blues.
Yep.
But, that's the Crusaders are the only team in New Zealand which does that. And
that's right.
That's why they're just so far ahead of everyone. And
I know exactly. That's exactly the way it is. The year was 2006. 2006, I got on a call to the coach of the Crusaders at the time. What's his name? Bloody Blackadder. Top
Blackadder. Yep.
And I'm trying to draw out a pathway for me to go down there, and because the Tasman Markers were only 1 or 2 years in at that point, established, and we're trying to get a good pathway for me to get the Crusaders.
Oh, nice.
He told me the pathway. He said, look, this is all you have to do. Come over here, play for this, I think the name was Wanderers team. And where was it? Tasman in the Tasman region. And that way you play well enough, you just get the Crusaders. But I didn't take it. One reason or another, at the time something happened, but I didn't go down. But yeah, that's definitely the way they create pathways to, and it's easy pathways. They fill gaps. They're problem solving.
Yeah.
And they're from the top. He was happy to have a conversation with me. Didn't know him from a bar of soap.
Yeah. That's my biggest takeaway as well. Like I touched on the players that had left, and I thought those holes were too big to fill. But there's that open side flanker. What's his name? That's just come through.
Tom Christie.
Like holy shit, he's I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in the All Blacks. The Cullen Grace, he's playing blindside flanker. Guys can leave world class players, and they can just fill some gaps. The next guy steps up and he's ready. So
and a guy like Tom Christie had to bite his time because he was behind the Matt Todds, the Richie McCaw, obviously, and so really
the Samoan bloke, what's his name?
And Jordan Telfor. So and then now with Matt Todd and Telfor moving on, he's the next cab off the rank, and that's the way he does. He didn't go anywhere else because had he gone somewhere else, he would have already been playing either for the Highlanders but I think he knew, he just calculated, hey, well, I'm this young and those guys are that old, so it'd be just a matter of time before he gets his crack. But unfortunately, there's always going to be those players that are always going to be behind the ones that are the incumbents, and that's the backbone of any squad, is you have to have those guys. Like with Matt Todd is a prime example of the way, he didn't get as much game time. And like you reiterated with Norm Hewitt as well, in the example of Fitzy. You're going to always have a guy on the bench to the incumbent, and without them, you can't have a squad. So it's sort of like, credit due to those players as well, just for sticking around. And it goes back even further. Johnny Leoto didn't go anywhere else, stayed in Crusader land and played Crusaders. Whenever Richie McCaw was away, then that's when they get their shot. And I think it's loyalty to that the Canterbury and the fabric of Crusader country as well. It's just that these guys, no matter whether I get 1 game, 2 games this season, 2 games in my whole career, I played for the Crusaders, I played for Canterbury.
Yep. Nice. Any you guys got any last thoughts? Like who's been the standout player for the Crusaders? Just before we move on to the Highlanders, anyone stand out? Any last thoughts before we move on?
I think Will Jordan has been a really massive revelation this season for the Crusaders. George Bridge and Sevu Reece have obviously trying to follow on from their exploits of last year, especially George Bridge. Sevu, whether it's been successful, I don't know, but that's the sort of the hard work that's come after you've become an All Black or being at the top of your game and trying to maintain and stay there, eh?
Yeah, one thing I'll say about Sevu is I think he benefited from being from the Crusaders. He was pretty good in Waikato. I'll give him credit there, but now that he was with the Crusaders and they've got such a gun team, he gets so much more opportunities. But I've never thought that he was better than Rico Ioane or anything like that. So I wouldn't have picked in my head of Rico Ioane or any of those.
I think it's just the way that he could finish and make something of nothing. But then it brings me back to the guys like Sivi Vatu and Joe Rokotoko back in 2007 Rugby World Cup, where they discarded Dougie Howlett for Sivi Vatu and Joe Rokotoko. Dougie got left out simply because those two allegedly brought an X factor about them, and we didn't get the job done. But yeah, it's good to have that Fijian flair, obviously with
Not too
Sevu Reece,
much.
but not to take away from and not to discard those that are safety. Our safety nets like your Dougie Howlett was, because he could play wing, fullback, and he was good under the high ball. And I think for Graham Henry to come out and say he wanted X factor and at the expense of a Doug Howlett, I was like, ooh. So
I think to me that was a massive turning point, because now if we look at the back three that the All Blacks have picked since 2007, we have a fullback at fullback, obviously, and then we have an X factor normally on the left, and then we have a sort of a wing fullback hybrid like Corey Jane or Israel Dag or Ben Smith on the other side. So I think we've learned that double X factor on each side. That doesn't normally work, and I think that's sort of when Naholo didn't get that much opportunities because they used Rico Ioane as that X factor wing. But
yeah. But I think George Bridge and Sevu Reece will still be in the in conversations in relation to the All Blacks. Then that's just purely going off last year. Not enough time in the game. We did see sort of glimpses of what Sevu can do from last year, early this year. Cody Taylor, Joe Moody, your usual suspects in the front row in the mix. Cody's come into his own, I believe. He's sort of he's seemed to create a bit of distance between him and Dane Coles now, since he's become the incumbent. And that's been good, because Cody's always been second to Dane Coles when Dane Coles was on his at his peak, in his prime. But Cody Taylor has been able to find his own and do really well and just flourish under being the number one hooker for the All Blacks coming off last year. Joe Moody is always going to be there for a wee while yet, barring any injuries. And I believe Jack Goodhue and Enoa will be in the conversation as well for ABs. But Will Jordan and Dave Havili for me will be ABs 15.
Nice.
Nice.
Goodhue's my pick.
Yep. Yeah, I like Goodhue. We'll move on to the lowly Highlanders.
Carlo.
All right, so